This should be played at high volume, preferably in a residential area.
What the hell are you? I'm Batman.
What going on? What it do? This right here is a very special one to me. On today's Case for the Greatest, we will be asking the question: is the Cape Crusader, the Dark Knight, the world's greatest detective? Is he, as the last nickname states, truly the greatest comic hero of all time? Let's assess. Like the last video in this series, check it out, especially if you love wrestling like I do. That one will surely get an argument going. We go over 3 criteria for each candidate as the best way to gauge them, those being portfolio, impact, and legacy. Now, since Batman is a multimedia character, I'm going to use a broader approach to these criteria. Portfolio in this case refer to the many character traits, abilities, and the many ways he's overcome those lack of abilities. Essentially, is the character of Batman at base level a good one that is able to effortlessly be well written by many different artists and writers? Impact will talk about his creation and constants throughout the last century and how it shaped and affected every era. And legacy will be how his existence and the many different capable hands who penciled, wrote, directed, voiced, or acted as him have impacted generations of media and cultures as a whole. I don't know why the hell I stumbled so much over the last little paragraph there. Today is probably not a good day for me, but yes, moving on. With all that being said, let's get that out of the way and let's get on with the show. This is Case for the Greatest. After the popularity of 1938's Action Comics 1, the world's introduction to Superman by the way, Detective Comics were jumping on the craze of the new hero, the costume superhero. Bob Kane and Bill Finger would come together and by the dawn of 1939, finalize the first iteration of what we know today as the Batman. They debuted in Detective Comics number 27 in March. It didn't take long for this new hero to become popular with fans, eventually as the 30s became the 40s, becoming the face of the company alongside Superman. It's now been 85 years since that first comic was published, and what was to be a minor character is arguably one of the greatest protagonists ever to be written in any form of literature, and the undoubted face of DC. Well, Superman is technically face, but hey, it's Detective Comics. And this is legit the world's greatest detective, so shh, we don't want to hear none of that. Before I get into my points though, I just want to give a big shout out to Bill Finger. Bill Finger today is credited as the co-creator, but literally went the entirety of his life uncredited, undercredited, or basically disrespected for his role in the creation of Batman. Bill's writing early on shaped many of what makes Batman great today. RIP to Mr. Finger. They can't keep a good man down. But let's get into this. While other Golden Age counterparts like Superman embody that Christ-like mythical all-American stereotype, or Wonder Woman, who serves as an icon for an entire group of people to aspire to, Batman's entire appeal is centered entirely around grief, sorrow, but with the notion that everybody goes through grief to appreciate their joy. Bruce Wayne is the son of the richest family in Gotham, whose lineage stretches way back to its foundation. A character like this here shouldn't be relatable to any one of us regular people, and especially not to any regular American in the Great Depression era of the 1930s. But his tragedy and his understanding of the world through his alter ego is what makes us gravitate towards him so much. And also, everybody wants to be rich, but not everybody wants to be rich and an idiot. Well, nobody actually wants to be rich and an idiot. Everybody wants to be rich and humble. And Bruce Wayne is the quintessential rich but humble person that everybody wants to be like. Bruce witnesses his parents get brutally gunned down one night after a movie and watches the robber mercilessly raids their possessions with no remorse. This thief's identity fluctuates, but the most common name is Joe Chill. Chill's actions might have destroyed the richest family in the city, but he inadvertently saves the lives of millions by lighting Bruce's fire for revenge, not against the man, but against the crime itself. He trained and eventually, after a number of years, would be well versed in combat, forensics, as well as being the head of a large technological corporation. Will be quite tech savvy as well. So, in order for me to give you the tail of the tape, it should be noted that DC reboots its continuity every 20 or so years to keep things fresh. So, I'll examine the major moments throughout each and likewise use the same measuring stick for the other criteria. In the golden age of comics, 1940s to mid 60s, the character was basically a holdover of the noir genre, albeit with more fantastical stories. Batman in the superhero space should not be anything special. He ain't got no powers like flight, super strength, super speed. He's exceptionally strong and durable, but by human standards. And he doesn't have any elaborate weaponry, not to mention he lives by a code of no killing. Well, at least he lives by a code of no killing as of the 1960s, because those things still exist today, except that back in the 40s, Batman used to carry the strap on him. And that no killing code? Well, yeah, that shit didn't exist either. Take for instance his first appearance. He chases after a criminal till he ends up on a ledge, hanging. Now, 2024 Batman would grab that man and give him a severe concussion and then arrest him. 1939 Batman, he would let Champ fall into a tank of acid. Or how about the next time when this villain named the Mad Monk was threatening his woman? Batman just pull up on his small house. He didn't have no elaborate fight or nothing. He just pulled out a gun and just shoots him in his sleep. Bang! No long talking, no fighting, unnecessary stress or anything like that. He just pulls out a gun and shoots him to death. Bro, the golden age of Batman, at least those days, were some of the grimiest comics available at the time, bro. The comics at this time would propel the Comic Code Authority to be enacted. This code would put restrictions on comics' capabilities, and even though the cartoonish aspects would last roughly up to the 1960s, the code was still actively going until 2011. Yeah, crazy. During these days, we were introduced to his sidekick Robin, who became the conduit for many younger fans and expanded the storytelling possibilities. Bruce sees another tragically orphaned youth with tremendous upside and takes him under his wing. Dick Grayson would essentially be Bruce's adopted son for the remainder of their lives.
I'm proud of you, Dick.
Are you feeling okay?
His rogues gallery is arguably the deepest in superhero and comic history, rivaled only by a certain arachnid. Each of these main villains all act as a mirror or another side of the kind of Batman. They showcase what evil can do to a man whose aura is already centered around dark and methodical approach to fighting. The Riddler, for example, embodies Batman's detective side infected with a nasty ego. Bane is basically Batman, smart and powerful, but seeks validation instead of fighting for others. Ra's al Ghul is an all-powerful philanthropist and immortal, what Bruce can get to if he becomes extremely greedy. And the Joker, well, he represents the exact extreme opposite of Batman is precise, strategic and rational. Joker is psychotic, all over the place, lives in the moment and cares little about what anybody else feels. All of these villains highlight the best aspect of Batman, his code. This is a corporate billionaire who comes from old money. A man that can have everything he wants in a city where people barely have what they need, cosplaying at night as a hero. In theory, Batman is not a mega rich savior archetype, but he isn't. I know, Gunner. What about superpowers? Fine, Batman isn't a superpowered human. Bravo, you 90 years late. But he is a super exceptional human, possessing strength, durability, and an intellectual mind, not to mention, of course,
What are your superpowers again?
I'm rich.
gives him an advantage over his more normal villains. But by proxy, you'd say that's a disadvantage, right? No, the whole pre-time thing is something I ain't gonna get into, and I can smell the fanboys and detractors. Do I think Batman is unstoppable and that he could possibly beat Jesus if he had enough prep time? No, obviously not. But is his strategy his greatest strength? Yes, most definitely. He in a group of people who all have some sort of super ability, and not only does he have a plan to take any of them out when they get too rogue, they all know this, and even on some occasions would encourage him to act upon it. Batman v Superman saga comes to mind. Finally, in the portfolio section, Batman just has the most aura of any superhero of all time. Sure, your Superman got the iconic status and your Spider-Man got the witty charms and whatever respectively. But Batman is all serious business. The Dark Knight. It comes about at night in a black cowl, a bat mask, the deepest and raspiest voice, and the most stoic and commanding motions. This is reflective in all of his animated and live action portrayals. Kevin Conroy is without question the voice we associate with Batman. He captures that character perfectly. And Christian Bale and Michael Keaton, in my opinion, are the most iconic portrayals in live action of the Cape Crusader. Look, I could go on, but we are already 10 minutes into this video and this section long enough, so moving on. This segment thing could be too long because I think I might have covered some of it in the last one, but Batman's impact throughout the eras was definitely felt. For one, Detective Comics were at the time known for their pulp magazines that dealt more in the macabre or detective stories. I mean, that's where they got their name from. So when Superman, Wonder Woman, The Flash, Green Lantern, and these other superheroes became immensely popular, a well-grounded costume detective was more than enough as a necessity for them tying together the two generations. Come on, what is wrong with me? I'm leaving this in, by the way, just to show y'all how I struggle sometimes with this shit. Batman and Superman's crossovers also made National Comics millions of dollars and led to the creation of more permanent supergroups, such as the Justice Society of America, and then eventually the Justice League or Justice League of America. Batman's characterization of darkness made him flexible to adapt through the changing of the eras without sacrificing what made him, well, him. In the strict days of the 1960s, he could fight off an alien tossing fruit at him, and then a couple years down the line, could be grieving over somebody's death. Or, damn near beat criminals to death as well. His relationship with Selina Kyle, aka Catwoman, in their constant will they won't they saga also blended the more romantic storylines into a more mainstream series. And if you ask me, it's Bruce and Selina over everybody. Sorry MJ and Peter, or Peter and Gwen, or Peter and whoever. Yeah, sorry, Peter. Batman's greatest contribution, arguably as a character, was to other media sources. From the 1960s cartoony series starring everybody's favorite,
Adam West, Adam West.
to legitimizing the superhero movie as a guaranteed blockbuster hit in 1989. To kickstart the dominant animated run DC would go on from the 90s arguably to even today with the animated series, New Adventures, Beyond, and the many, many iterations of Justice League, which, by the way, I think are all masterpieces. It's safe to say that Superman might be its face, but Batman usually carries DC out of their slumps and into whatever renaissance period they have. The debut of Batman just recently celebrated its 85th year, and the popularity and icon status of that character only seems to be getting stronger. The Batman storyline's greatest impact and longest lasting legacy was making it mainstream for comics and their extended media to portray them themes of depression, loneliness, hopelessness, deep psychological torment, not in a way that glorifies them, but signals to the audience that they exist. And even in a fantasy world, the prospect of hope and prosperity can only be appreciated when it comes from a place of toiling through adversity. Batman has inspired many writers and artists over the years to come up with even more heroes that didn't possess superhuman abilities, but were believable enough to be cornerstone heroes. Iron Man, rich and spoiled playboy. Green Arrow, another rich and spoiled man who comes close to death. Daredevil, the Punisher, etc. and etc. On the surface, they might not look like they even share resemblance with Batman, but when you dig deep, you see the footprints lie there. Iconic costume, symbols, tech, quotes, and presence. He's an institution. His legacy ultimately to me is that as a superhero, he's a standard that every regular non-powered hero wants to get to. It seems attainable, but even then, they all know none of them can capture the way he goes about handling his business or dealing with the issues that come along with him. Bruce Wayne is a man that lives above 90% of those he protects. A man who, in the eyes of the public, has everything he ever wants. Batman on paper without characterization is a rich man with way too much time on his hands being a vigilante, just for the sake of portraying a hero. Look at Elon Musk, for example. In his head, and in the heads of many of his followers, he's a real life Tony Stark or Bruce Wayne amalgamation. But he's more akin to the idea of Batman if we strip away everything that makes him a hero. Batman's enduring legacy is teaching generations of readers, viewers, writers, and even artists the value of hope. Batman's relatable even 9 decades later because he's a man who has every material possession, but the loss of the most important thing, his family, is what keeps him grounded. Batman's moral compass exists not just as a way to keep him in check from letting vengeance plague him, but also because he looks at the bigger picture. I can kill this criminal, but then I might leave another child fatherless and tormented, just like me. I can sit from my mansion with millions away from crime, or I can go out there and save an innocent soul from certain danger. The Bat is most definitely top 5 all time. Nobody ain't gonna dispute though. Is he number 1 though? That will forever be contentious, but if you ask me, he is. And if you say otherwise, you're wrong. I'm joking, right? I'm joking. Y'all ain't wrong. No, I ain't joking. Y'all dead wrong. Deal with it. Anyways, people, give this video a love because it took me a lot of time getting it together, to be honest. Like, share, do whatever you gotta do to make this channel grow. We growing, folks. My last video, doing numbers. So we are definitely growing. Let's see what's next though. You can suggest what you want to see next down below and I can get rolling on it. Stick around for some more videos though, because I got a new movie review coming soon. We continue the American Pie Presents saga, so be prepped. Regardless of all that though, I can see y'all later.